direction. Drop the clutch, pedal to the floor. Turn that caper into a lion's roar. Dream machine, racing queen. I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's blow this town, break the speed of sound. Tonight we own the road. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Red on the highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. Red on the highway, blue lights flashing behind me. Dream machine, racing queen. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat.
A very good evening to everyone here on this Monday night. We are back. This is SimRace South Africa. I am Ryan Hill with you in the booth tonight running commentary. And we are in the Renault Clio Cups again tonight. This is round 2 of 5. Technically, because we run 2 races back-to-back reverse grid with the Clio Championship, this is technically going to be race 3 and 4. For those of you sharp-eyed enough to recognize the track in the background video, we are of course at Thruxton circuit in the UK. And the footage in the background is just showing some of the bikes here that happen, mostly because Thruxton is a very popular bike track. It runs, or actually used to run, what was known as the Thruxton 500. That was a sort of a 500-mile endurance race. But today it runs the BSB, that's the British Superbike Championship. And alongside, since 1979 and still going, they also run the BTCC, that's the British Touring Car Championship, which is quite a popular one. A couple of other things that ran in the past: there was the FIM Endurance World Championship, there was a British Formula 3 series for the open wheelers that used to run. A little bit more recently, the British GT Sports Car Championship used to run. I think it stopped around about 2008. But yeah, as you can see on track right now, it is built around an airfield. It's 2.356 miles, or about 3.8 kilometers. It's in the village of Thruxton in Hampshire, England, about 30 miles north of Southampton. And it's also referred to as the fastest circuit in the UK because it's very open, very flowy, and drivers can reach speeds of over 190 miles per hour, so 300 kilometers an hour. And it's the reputation of being a true driver's track. And to illustrate that, quite interestingly, Damien Hill drove his Williams Formula 1 car around the circuit at an average speed of 147 miles per hour. That's 237 kilometers average in the early 90s. The site's also the headquarters of the British Automobile Racing Club, or BARC. And yeah, as mentioned, the airfield is quite interesting. So the site was constructed in 1942 as RAF, or the Royal Air Force Thruxton, as a World War II airfield, for troop-carrying aircraft and gliders, including operations during the D-Day landings. So yeah, certainly steeped in history, this one, but we continue to be able to enjoy it today for various motorsport activities. Looking ahead at the weather forecasts tonight. So it is a dynamic track as always. The start value grip is about 94, obviously 100 being max. Between sessions, so between practice, between quali, race, and then certainly race 2, about 80% of that grip is going to transfer from one session to the next. It's going to take 50 laps to improve that grip, but that is cumulative, so multiple drivers on track. We're going to have about 14 drivers tonight. All of those laps will sum up togetherness, and within all of that there's a randomness of 1. The weather itself is a bit of a steep wind, actually, 20 to 25 kilometers per hour at 90 degrees bearing, with a small variance, and the base ambient temperature is quite hot, 29 degrees Celsius with a 1 degree variation. The road temperature is going to be 3 degrees variable above that. So we're calculating the road temperature today to be between 30 and 34 degrees. As we cut to the live picture just now, we can see exactly what that's going to be translated to, or what's transpiring tonight. Mid clouds, no rain or anything like that. The time of day simulated is 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so nice and hot. Championship standings, so this is round 2, so we can see where the drivers are falling today. Nick Hodson is currently leading after round 1 and 2, and on 43 points. Mikhail Matthews coming in at number 2 with 27, and Ross Bartle rounding out your top 3 at 26 points. HLQ times, so I don't really have fast laps for you. There were no lap records set with this particular track car combination yet, but we do have a sneak peek for some of the drivers that popped onto one of the practice servers earlier in the week, and just a screenshot of some of those times captured. Certainly not the latest. I think this was captured somewhere middle of last week, I think it was, but Jeremy D'Oliers was out there and posting a 124.782 as the fastest lap time. But I expect those times to be somewhat smashed today. A lot of guys may have just been sandbagging, and a lot of other drivers weren't actually present on this practice server. So for sure we're going to have a look at that in a little bit. I'm here to take you more around the track though, and give you a full-on driver's side viewpoint of the hot lap. Please enjoy this hot lap guide, and I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes.
You join me on board for another hot lap. This time it's around Thruxton, my favourite UK circuit, and this was a 1 minute 31.1, and let's get on with the lap. So I'm chasing a Porsche 968 in the Open Series, 4th gear into turn 1, just a lift and then back on the power. Hold the line tight on the left. The car wants to push out wide, but you need to keep it to the left for the hard braking into the complex. Drop it down to 3rd, bring it to the apex, don't use too much, don't be greedy. Again, just touching that one, and then flat through the 3rd part. And now out onto the fastest section of the circuit. Use all the curb there on the right hand side, miss the first part of this corner, bring it into the 2nd part, and then hold it in the middle of the track. Use this tarmac as a reference point. You don't want to come in and hit that curb on the inside, it'll unsettle the car. Use all the width here, and you're just keeping your foot absolutely pinned to the throttle. Little bit of fuel starvation there as the track falls away. Lift for church, back on the throttle, and you'll use all the exit curb if you've carried enough speed. You're just watching the speedo, you're just trying to nail your gear changes. Don't scrub any speed off with the steering, middle of the track, then brake on the right hand side here. You don't need to be out wide. Just touch that inside curb, smash the middle one, and then straight line the final one. Use all the exit curb and just hold the steering wheel straight up to the line. Another lap, 1:31.1, and yeah, a couple of seconds quicker than last year.
Alrighty, that was a hot lap in real life, of course. Gives you a very good outline of the track. That was in a Peugeot, if I'm not mistaken, very similar to the Renault Clio, but these are definitely more pacey. We're going to cut to some live feeds now, as we see Nick Hodson out on track. This is the end of the free practice session, just following teammates Sas van der Westhuizen cocking a wheel there through the final chicane as the drivers get nice and close together. Also sporting the new Black Owl Sim Sports livery, which is looking pretty epic. If I don't say myself, always striking livery there, designed by the one and only Brett Crocamp. The whole team sporting the same livery. Yeah, certainly this mod track in Assetto Corsa has been modelled quite faithfully after the real-life counterpart. One addition that has been added in this mod track, I think, is a tyre barrier before the chicane, which is an attempt to prevent drivers from making any sort of excess track cuts. Yeah, this is in the final throes of the practice session. These guys are going hammer and tongs by the looks of it, Nick and Sas van der Westhuizen. Maybe we can quickly hop on board with Nick and just see as he tries to chase down Sas van der Westhuizen. Headlights are on, blaring and reflecting against that paintwork and rear windscreen. And coming down essentially the back straights here, Woodham Hill. They're pretty much side by side a drag race here through the final corners. Nick is going to have the inside line, but Sas might have enough to pedal around the inside, but he's going to have to watch out for the chicane now. There's that tyre barrier that you were talking about, and Nick gets extremely sideways and manages to keep it out any sort of hard barrier as Sas van der Westhuizen takes a position in front of him. That was quite racy. Just leaving the pits here, one of the pink and white cars, I think that might be Ryan Ludick. And is indeed as he files out of the pits, just to get some literally last minute practice in. There's 20 seconds down on the clock, and the drivers should be able to complete the lap times that they're on if they're on hot lap. But yeah, you can certainly see from the trackside cameras here just how flat this track is, obviously built around that airfield, so to speak. Not much elevation change whatsoever around the outside of it. Very nice, fast, open and flowy. Certainly makes for some really good racing. Ross Bartle, meanwhile, there he is, the other two Black Altham Sports drivers. Other three, I think there might be three out there on track today, making 5 total. Followed very closely by Brett Crowcamp himself, the designer of this livery. And they are certainly looking extremely strong tonight, all the Black Altham Sports drivers. Rounding out the top 3 times in practice so far, looks like Mikhail Matthews is currently in the pits. Has posted a 4th best time as the cars come over the line there. Oh, someone's dragging the wall there. I think that might have been Sats van der Verstezen doing a little bit of farming. His 126.963 is the best effort he can do at the end of practice. He rolls to a halt and calls the virtual tow truck back to pits. Apologies for the shimmering windscreens. I'm not entirely sure what's causing that. Maybe something to do with the glow or the CSP that needs a little bit of tweaking. But here we are at the end of practice, and we'll be ticking over into quali in just a few seconds. Right, here we are, clicked over into qualifying, and drivers are piling out the pits as fast as they can there. Eager beavers. This will be a good opportunity just to run through who has made it out onto the grid tonight. I do know we have a couple of excused. I think it was Mike McGear sadly having ESCOM issues, power supply letting him down. They're unable to make the grid tonight. I do think I saw a couple of other apologies from Timothy Gomez. Joe Kutser, I think, was struggling with his internet, so yeah, a few drivers not able to make tonight's racing. But who we do have out on track, we've mentioned the Black Altham Sports drivers. It's of course Nick Hodson, Sas van der Verstezen, and Martin Groenewald, Brett Crowcamp, Greg Hofart. There's a lot of them out there tonight. Roxanne Barkle is out there as well, looking for honours. Certainly a huge, strong support of Black Altham Sport out in Port today. Jeremy de Villiers for de Villiers Motorsport Racing. Out there being chased hard by Sas van der Verstezen at the moment. Guys are going to need to sort of find some room themselves and just settle down a bit and find a gap to be able to put in the best effort they can during qualifying. There's 8 minutes left of qualifying. Essentially, it's a 10-minute session. And before we go into a 20-minute race, there's a large amount of cutting happening there. But we have allowed, I'll get to it in a little bit, certain corners that you are allowed to cut on at this track tonight. As Jeremy de Villiers puts in a provisional fastest lap of 1:37.286. Mikhail Matthews, we've mentioned, is out there as well tonight. Peter Geldenes, good to see old Peter in his blue and white livery. And Ryan Ludick, mentioned earlier tonight as well, he's out in the pink and white car number 13. I think that's the entire field that I've managed to get through. Just for the viewers' benefit in terms of corner cuts and what's allowed versus what's not. So Church Corner is the sort of flat out right-hander prior to, if you know the track, Brooklands/Woodham. And one of the back straights, it's possible to cut the track on the right-hand side, sort of ride that understeer and then gain a very small advantage, but that's very difficult under race conditions and carries quite a lot of risk and reward. So it's deemed legal tonight. then it's mostly all around the final chicane. You can see about to come up to now as we're on board with Ryan Ludick. So I'll chat about that in a sec. There's that tyre barrier and the chicane that we're talking about. So now there's an area of the track just to the right of the tyre barrier. Any amount that you stick it to the right hand side of those tyres is going to be allowed. Left of the tyre barrier, of course, is not allowed. It does yield a track cut in game, but anything to the right hand side of those tyre barriers has been deemed legal, even though that will result in, if you hook it up nicely, going essentially 3 or more tyres outside of the official white painted lines. Then just following that final chicane as well, there is the exit of the chicane onto the main straight. You can cut a little bit on the outside right hand side of the track, but we'll see it when the cars come around again that there's a little bit of a blue and white barrier wall on the left, and you run a huge risk of hitting that blue and white wall if you so much as get it marginally wrong. So again, it's one of those huge high risk / minimal reward type scenarios, which is why we've deemed that legal for now. I'm going to head on board with Brett Crowcamp and we can maybe demonstrate what we mean by that. Let's just find a nice little dash cam as he's pulling over. I'm thinking to let one of the other guys, Nick Hodgson, go through. In fact, we'll switch to Nick because it looks like Brett's pulling over. So here we come through this club chicane corner. We'll see how he keeps it as straight as possible to the tyre barriers, and this is where you can cut a little bit, and there's that blue and white checkerboard wall that I was talking about, that you have to be extremely careful about how much you cut that previous corner. As Nick goes fast, just 125.329 purple sectors across all 3, and 5 minutes left of quali. Can anyone beat that? I think Brett was maybe hopping back to pits to put in some fresh boots, maybe just refill with fuel if he's running low fuel, and see if he can get out there and do a better effort. Meanwhile, Ross Bartle is in second position, still locking out that front row. Is Black Owl Sim Sports with Mikhail Matthews on the front of the second row in third position currently. Cal in the nice red and black clear livery. We'll see what he can clock in now. We're watching and waiting for that first sector time to come in. It's orange. It's not his best effort here. 0.1 down on his best. And we'll have to see if he can make up any sort of time on the second sector. Otherwise he's going to have to pedal all the way around and see if he can do another bit of hot lap. Sector 2 about to come in any second. And it's also a little bit better, but not his best either. Still 0.098 down. So this final sector he's going to have to hook up quite a bit if he wants to make up. But look at the difference actually in the top left between second and third position. It is 0.001 of a second difference. That's 0.378 to 0.377. So Mikhail doesn't have to improve by much if he manages to have hooked up this final sector. Oh, but that I think is going to be a legitimate track cut. See across the line if that counted or not. In fact, he's pulled over already. So that unfortunately was an invalid lap, and he's bailed out of it, and he's going to need to get out again. He's got the time, 3.5 minutes left. Let's see where Brett Crewcamp is currently on the back half of the circuit. And he's doing well here. Look at that purple sector, 0.001. Can he hold it all the way through sector 2 and 3? Let's see. That's a purple middle sector, 0.033 better. And certainly looks like Brett is on for a cracker here, but the hardest part of the circuit is yet to come. Going through that chicane as fast as possible without violating track limits in game to invalidate the lap. We're on board here with the dash cam. Let's see how tight and clean he can keep it through. Cuts this one nicely legally, cuts that one legally. This is looking pretty good as he steams towards the finish line. He's in 4th position currently, and he rockets all the way up to the top of the 3 purple sectors. Absolutely. Where is Nick now to see if he's in response? He's coming through the final chicanes as we speak. That looked, oh, it's so scrappy. He's actually just hit the wall, as well as another car that was coming through. Someone in the orange. Was that not sure who that was. Was that Certainly looked like an orange car in the background, but maybe it was just the lighting from a distance. And 2 minutes left to quali. Let's see who we can find to challenge here. Mikhail Matthews. I think this is an outlap because no sector times are showing so far. Yeah, definitely his times at 3:17, 3:18. So he's going to be going out for his first hot lap now. We'll keep an eye on him. As we go on board with him here, you can also see his delta towards the bottom right hand section of your screen. He's up 0.14, so looking good so far. Have to see, yep, Spectre 1 coming in purple, minus 0.133, so doing well so far to challenge for that front row of the grid. I can tell you now that the track has improved from 94% grip to 97 already. Track temperature out there is 31 degrees, a couple degrees higher than the ambient of 29. The wind is pumping at 22 degrees, sort of an easterly. It's sectored 2 times down, 0.0038 though, so it's only marginal. And he's already lost that purple, it's changed into a green, so I think someone else ahead of him is going a little bit quicker here. To see if he can pull that out the bag for sector 3 to improve right now, because he is on the bubble of that second row on the grid, and currently in 4th position. Somewhat tentative going through here, almost chicane, but that looked nice and tidy. Keeps it inside and doesn't exceed, and across the line. There's no improvement from 4th position, unfortunately. Renault Cup, meanwhile, holding that provisional pole. There's just 20 seconds left to qualify, so anyone who's not out there, and Brett's somewhat trying to defend his total here. Oh, that's run very wide. I'm almost certain that is a track cut and will have invalidated his lap. Unless by some miracle the right hand side of his car was still within those white painted lines. He's so close to the finish line, so let's just see what he does manage to pump in as a final sector. His middle sector, he's already pulling into the lap, into the pits, so I'm pretty sure that was indeed invalidated. Nick Hodson, meanwhile, this is an outlap, he's not going to be able to improve. Kyle Matthews manages to have crossed the line for another hot lap, but his first sector is not competitive right now, so I don't think there's going to be any improvement for him either. Sas van der Westhuizen, literally crossing the line as we speak. His first sector was his personal best, second not so great. Goes across the line again, personal best, but doesn't manage to improve further than 5th position. Jeremy de Villiers, he's about to cross the finish line now. Personal best in the first, second and third, and that's good enough for 6th position. Peter Keldernis is already in the pits in 7th. Brett Krockamp, yep, he's pitted. Not sure why his car's not reflecting he's in the pits, but he's in the pits. Perhaps he hasn't jumped to pits and he's just inside the pit lane. Ryan Luddick slowing to finish, he's going to start in P8. Roxanne Bartle, P9. So there we are for qualifying completion. P10 ended with Greg Hofart, and P11 Martin Grunewald. And that is going to be essentially your race 1 starting grid. Don't forget we have a back-to-back feature tonight. So race 2 will feature the top 10 cars reversed, and there's only I think 11 other drivers on track tonight, which essentially means the entire field's going to pretty much be reversed. That should lead to some exciting action in race 2. Meanwhile, we are in between now qualifying, just waiting for the race start. I think drivers have about 3 or 4 minutes to prepare. What they'll essentially be doing is going through their various configurations and their sim setups, just double checking things like the setup of the car. That not only includes things like fuel and tires, but also just the suspensions and the roll bars, and make sure I don't think these cars have aero, but yeah, fairly simplistic setups. Brett flashing his lights on the line here. We have about 40 seconds to go before race 1 starts. We can see Black House Sim Sports locking out the top 3 positions so far. Mikhail Matthews next in line, just staggered there, essentially technically row 2. Here the lights coming on. We'll have 6 reds, then off we go. Revving of the engines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, holding for the lights to go off. Off we go, Brett Kirkham, Nick Hudson, Ross Bartle and Mikhail Matthews. Looks like the top 3 Black House Sim Sports have managed to get away cleanly. Mikhail Matthews as well in P4. Looks like the entire field is away nice and safely as well, no incidents. And here we're coming into Campbell Corner. Riding the inside curve, looks like Mikhail Matthews defending. Make sure that the additional Black House Sim Sports racer of Sas van der Westhuizen doesn't get the pounce on him. Behind him, looks like side by side, we have Jeremy de Villiers with Peter Geldenes. Jeremy in the pink and white, Peter in the blue and white. And here we are on the dash cam with Peter Geldenes on the back of Jeremy de Villiers. Just coming through Noble Corner to Goodwood. And you can see just ahead that pack, they've broken away the top 5. And Peter just trying to find a gap around Jeremy de Villiers here, weaving right, weaving left, trying to see where's the best way to go past him on the outside here. But we're going to cut through to the leaders here, as it almost looks like side by side as Brett Kirkham for Nick Hudson. And certainly with Mikhail Matthews onto, I think that is Ross Bartle. They are indeed side by side, and Mikhail Matthews has got the inside line here, and he might even be able to effect a little bit of a pass. He's going to get mugged though, and that is indeed through. He's up to 3rd position, navigating the final chicane with such precision. Great job. And this is on board here with Ross Bartle in P4, just looking ahead into the top 3 to the position. He's just lost Mikhail Matthews. And we'll see they're just flicking to driver's eye view. We can see in the mirror in your top right as well, that is Sas van der Westhuizen. So Mikhail Matthews very much the meat in the sandwich of a double Black House Sim Sports 2 in front, 2 behind right now. The looking cool, calm and collected in that red Renault. And we'll go trackside again. Just looking to who was in that orange car. I think that actually was Greg Hofart. So I remembered in qualifying, I think it was Nick Hudson who had that incident coming out of the final chicane and went into an orange car, or collected, just rebounding off the wall. That was indeed Greg Hofart. Look at the tire smoke pouring off these guys as there's Roxanne Bartle ahead of him. That is essentially battling for P9. And off track goes Ryan Luddick. Does a little bit of farming. I think that's allowed Peter Geldenes to come through. And indeed that position swap has affected. That was for P7. Navigating the chicane there and goes very wide there. That's Jeremy de Villiers, I believe. And it almost looked like he's piled into the pits at speed. That was very interesting. And off he goes again. I'm glad that wasn't a disqualification or something, but very strange. I'm not sure if that was entirely planned. He may have been yeeted into the pits. I don't know if I saw contact, but maybe just had a bit of a tank slapper. There's a bit of an interesting rejoin there. Behind, I think that's Martin Furnivold, who does manage to get around now. Essentially, Jeremy, I think, is now classified as a bit of a back marker. Although Greg Hofart's also in the pits. That's very interesting, and I'm hoping that's not a disqualification. So you can get disqualified here if you effect a track cut and don't manage to do the slowdown penalty before the start-finish line. Certainly hoping that hasn't happened to Greg Hofart. He may need to sit out, if that is the case, until race 2, the next 15 odd minutes. Not sure why the windscreens are shimmering. Apologies for that graphical error here. But we are on board here with Ross Bartle, and he is trying to get that P3 coveted podium position back from Mikhail Matthews. We're going to go on board and just see if we can hit the bumper cam. Oh, look at this. So close up the trumpet. And he's managed to get a bit of an overlap here. Ross Bartle, as we see Nick Hudson currently take fastest lap. And Ross is going to go around the inside. Carl Matthews will have the inside for the next bend, of course. But this is into Campbell corner now. Full side by side. And almost going a little bit wide there, and I think that is Sas van der Westhuizen behind. So yet again, Carl Matthews finds himself in a sandwich, but he's technically dropped down to fourth, but it's still neck and neck, so it's literally anyone's game. Carl Matthews has got his nose in front just ever so slightly here. Into Goodwood corner, and it looks like around the outside goes Ross Bartle and takes that position away from Carl Matthews for now. But look at the pressure he's got from behind. He's having to attack and defend at the same time, Carl Matthews. That is an incredibly difficult job to do. Seems to have settled for the time being in that position. Through the chicane they all go. Perfectly legal, that particular track cut, so long as you stay right hand side of the tyre barriers. You can see the breakaway pack here with the top two, Nick Hodson and Brett Krockamp, out in front. Seeing a few drivers put in personal best lap times. Oh, and very wide and drifting goes Carl Matthews, and it looks like he needs to do a bit of a slowdown penalty. In fact, he's had to go farming across the track here now and does a rejoin, and that's a very costly mistake for him. I think still more slowdown penalties. You can see he had to lift off the gas there. That is so unfortunate, and he's dropped all the way down to 7th position. Yeah, deeply unfortunate for Carl Matthews. That has promoted Sas van der Westhuizen and Ross Bartle. They're essentially up into 3rd and 4th now. It sounded like there was someone going farming in the back there, but maybe it was just clipping the gravel. Here we have Sas van der Westhuizen under pressure by Peter Geldenes, who is side by side. He is up here on the inside, and he's actually managed to get it past. And meanwhile, there's been a position change in the lead here. Now, Brett Krockamp ahead of Nick Hodson. This is neck and neck. Across the finish line, dragging down. Nick Hodson has the inside line on the Brett around, trying to go around the outside. Look at the tyre smoke as they navigate this corner. Brett's going to have the inside line for this next corner, of course. So they'll continue the sort of back and forth, I think, around these S-bends until we hit the tight corner of Campbell. Brett manages to stick it around the outside, though, and he's taken that position back from Nick. So great battle. Meanwhile, Ross Bartle, seeing these two ahead of him fight, has managed to close that gap. Obviously, you lose a lot of time trying to attack and defend versus running the optimal line. So, and he's still under attack here. Brett Krockamp, he's a reverse attack, and Brett manages to sail through for now. Nick slotting in behind of Goodwood corner. Actually looks like the bonnet is a little bit lifted there of Nick Hodson, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it just the paint job? But he draws to the inside of Church corner. And then difficult to say with the camera angle, but it looks like, yeah, Nick's got his nose in front and makes the pass again on Brett Krockamp, who slipped down to 3rd. Ross Bartle has jumped on that opportunity and slotted in the middle. In fact, he's going to get a bit of a slingshot here. That is a double pass by Ross Bartle from 3rd to 1st. Look at that. Before the final chicane. What an epic maneuver. Ross Bartle just jumped the two of them in one go. It was the perfect opportunity and perfectly executed. Let's go on board with, oh, a little bit dirty there at the back. Let's go on board here with Brett Krockamp, the currently in P3, looking on to the leaders here. It's essentially a battle for P1 across all 3 cars. They're so close and neck in terms of their driver skill. And look at the overlap in pace here that Brett has. And will just nose temporarily in front of Nick there ever so slightly. We've seen another pass further down of Ryan Ludik, it looked like, and Peter Geldenes. Almost don't want to lose this battle with the leaders here. Bottle's opened up quite a bit of a gap now. Oh, as I say that, he runs wide, which is going to compromise his lap time a little bit, and keep Brett Kirkhamp and Nick Hodson in the game. This is Nick Hodson on board now, P3, looking on to Brett Kirkhamp ahead, and Ross Bottle in the distance. Much straighter line he has to Brett Kirkhamp here, which I think should allow him to draw closer. We'll stay on board him now just to get this driver's eye impression of what this racing is. Slams on anchors into Campbell corners. The first of the tight ones after the start finish. Inside left the cog. Tightens it up and opens it up for Seagrave. Both of these drivers doing exceptionally well considering the conditions. Keep Ross Bartle in their sights. He's not able to really run away with it just yet. And Nick almost had to back out of it there, just getting so close to the backside of Brett. I think also due to a little bit of the draft effect. He's sort of swung to the outside now, just to see if he can effect an overlap. And Brett's going to squeeze as much as he can legally, leaving a car's width. But he's not going to have the optimal line now and has to slip back into that racing line if he's going to have a chance of keeping it under control for the final chicane, which is coming up now. And we're going to see what is going to transpire. Nick's looking to the inside. That was going to be very aggressive. He was going to go for a dive there. It's too far back in my opinion. He straightens it up. Brett's running a little bit defensive here, trying to keep it in check. Look at this overlap here. There is an overlap. Oh, it's ever so slight, I think. Just off the rear panel. And slots back into it. We're going to hop back down to Ryan Ludick, who was 0.3 seconds behind Peter Caldenas as well. This is the battle for P4. Looking around the outside there just very briefly. Both of them have a little moment. I wonder if they've just outbraked themselves going into that corner, and that's brought Sas van der Westhuizen up into this mix. We go into the bumper cam. Just trying to see what's transpiring ahead of him here, but I think they are both in trouble now from Sas van der Westhuizen if he gets going. Manages to keep his momentum. I feel he's gaining on Peter Caldenas here. It's a Brew Noble corner into Goodwood. Just a slight lift and a pull for 6th gear, feathering the throttle, trying to keep it in track. Cut this corner ever so slightly as well, but you run the risk of doing exactly that on the understeer, and not keeping it on track means you're going to lose some speed, and that has put Peter Caldenas under great pressure now from Sas van der Westhuizen, and he does the overlap. Will he get a double overtake onto Ryan Ludick ahead? I think that's going to be a bit too much to handle. It would have been a bit of a dive, but through the chicane they go, and Sas van der Westhuizen makes it up to P5. And across the line, Nick Hodson, meanwhile, P2, still battling these top 3 here, and they are still right on the back of Ross Bartle. He hasn't managed to get away yet. Initially, it looked like he was going to have a little bit of a breakaway, but Ross Bartle here is not managing to do that, with Nick Hodson and Brett Kirkhamp behind. On board with Brett Kirkhamp, the third out of these 3. Oh, a little bit of a argy-bargy, bumpy on the back there, as he says hello to Nick Hodson and goes side by side. There's a very much overlap now on the inside line that Brett Kirkhamp has through Church Corner. Don't run too wide though, I'm pretty sure. Nick is behind, no longer on the overlap there. Ryan Ludick, meanwhile, 0.1 seconds behind. Sas van der Westhuizen looking to retake that position. It's heading up to the final corners. Club chicane. Here we go. Look at how much they had to pitch and chucked the car into those corners. I dare say that wasn't as straight as they would have liked it to be, as we see Mikhail Matthews make up a place, passing Roxanne Bartle. Trying to do a bit of a recovery drive here. I think that looks like Mikhail Matthews' personal best, a 1:25.431. Best lap at the circuit for him so far. And back on board with Ryan Luddick now. The battle for P4. Brett Kirkham seems to have fallen a great deal behind. In fact, he has almost 9 seconds. We didn't really catch that as Mikhail Matthews affects that pass. And it's actually Peter Feldness falling back. And I'm not entirely sure what happened to Brett Kirkham there, but he's fallen right back off that top 3 battle. As we see just behind Ryan Luddick and Sas van der Westhuizen side by side. This is Sas managing to go around the inside of Ryan Luddick. In fact, Ryan Luddick seems to have enough of a pace advantage for this drag race up Woodham Hill. And Sas is going to have the inside line here for the chicane. We see Brett getting so close to that tire barrier, and he has to correct his mistake, and it's going to put him under all sorts of pressure here from Sas van der Westhuizen. Look at the defensive line Brett is running though. I'm wondering where Ryan Luddick is. There you can see in the mirrors, right hand mirrors now, the pink and white car of Ryan Luddick, as we see another change for the lead as Nick Hodson manages to get past Ross Bartle. Don't know where to look. There's just so much action all across the leaderboard here. Trying to keep an eye on both battles as Brett Kirkham's had another issue and has jumped to behind Ryan Luddick now. And a little bit scrappy here in the final stages of this race. Brett, but Ross Bartle meanwhile looking to attack the back of Nick Hodson and regain that coveted P1 position. The points drop off in this championship is quite large, meaning that every single position here is worth fighting for. Essentially it is 25 points for first position, 18 for second, 15 for third. Yeah, everything to play for here. Every position counts quite significantly more than it has in the past seasons. Somewhere South Africa, I think, only top 3, I think, had about a 2 or 3 point differences, and then it was essentially 1 point for every position you go down. Look at that little bit sideways action from Ross Bartle. Brett now at P5 ahead. And we see just in the foreground there, that's Ryan Luddick and Sas van der Westhuizen. Ryan Luddick, getting a little bit squiggly and has to slam on anchors there to avoid going to the side panel of Sas van der Westhuizen, who sails through to retain that third position. And meanwhile, that's Mikhail Matthews has managed to get past as well, following that mistake of Ryan Luddick. So Mikhail Matthews here has actually had an incredible recovery drive. Considering the incident in the early stage of this race, which I think he fell back down to at least 7 or 8 position, maybe even lower. So great recovery drive here with 1.5 minutes to go. It's not over yet though. P2 is just 0.3 seconds, 0.2 seconds behind Nick Hodson as they file through the final chicane. And that is a personal best lap time put in by Nick Hodson, 1:25.178 for his personal best. What's quite interesting to note that it's certainly not the fastest lap out there tonight across the entire track, but sometimes consistency is what wins races, and Nick certainly proving he is very consistent out there tonight. Brett Kirkham in P6 here is 0.3 behind Ryan Luddick. He's also trying to make a little bit of a last minute recovery up the fields. with just 20 seconds or so in it. Nick Thruxton and Ross Bartle in P1 and 2 are certainly a big gap ahead of P3, which is currently Sas van der Westhuizen. He has a smoking Mikhail Matthews behind him. Lots of tire smoke billowing out the foreground of that last camera shot. No, I don't think there's enough time. The leaders have essentially passed the finish line, or about to pass the finish line, as the clock hits 0. And Nick Thruxton takes race 1 victory to Ross Bartle, who's oh, what's going on with Ross here? He was languishing in the background there. He just had a little bit of a final last effort dive, but he crosses the line safely in P2. Maybe he got it wrong in the chicane. Sas van der Westhuizen comes home to take that final podium position, and it is a Black Owl Sim Sports lockout of the podium in race 1. Kyle Matthews comes home for a very great P4, considering that recovery drive, of course. Brett Kirkhamp P5, Ryan Ludick P6, Roxanne Bartle P7, Peter Gelnes P8, Martin Groenewald P9, Jeremy de Villiers P10, and I do believe that is going to mean that Jeremy de Villiers is going to start race 2 in position 1, because the top 10 are going to be reversed. Greg Hurtbot, of course, has been sitting in the pits for the last 11 laps. That must have been a disqualification. Crack up. I do hope that it hasn't disqualified him for both races and he's able to make good on race 2 to come. We will be back in about 3 minutes for race 2. Don't go anywhere. Here's an ad break. We are back, just awaiting the start of race 2 now. Won't be too much time left on the clock before it ticks over into that straight into the race session. It's not another qualifying session. Here we go, in fact. And I'm expecting Jeremy de Villiers to be on pole. Let's see as the computer does its final calculations and sets the grid formation. Should be locking out the front row, Jeremy de Villiers and Martin Groenewald. Taken. Second row of the grid, I'm expecting to be Roxanne Bartle and Peter Gelnes. So this could be quite exciting for sure. The quick drivers from race 1, race winners, will be starting way down the field, way down the field, and they'll have a lot of traffic to deal with. They want to strong finish in race 2 as well. Here we go. Grid is forming. Indeed, it is Jeremy de Villiers' pink and white car, and it does look like hopefully going to see Greg Hopart out on track as well. Let's just check. No, his car is... no, that's commentary BMW car. Greg's on track. Yes, thankfully Greg has made it into race 2. So 20 seconds to the lights. We're just waiting. Drivers doing their final preps. Here we have a good view here of the start. Jeremy de Villiers, Martin Groenewold, Pierre Geldenhuys and Roxanne Bartel ready for race 2. 6 lights coming on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lights. Away we go for race 2. Looks like a good start here by Jeremy de Villiers, Martin Groenewold and Peter Geldenhuys. Tyre field getting away there relatively cleanly. Looks like the top 3 are getting away in the positions they started with. Peter Geldenhuys is very close to the back of Martin Groenewold here. As we see the fields coming through, looks like Ross Bartel has dropped a position, and at the back there, Martin Groenewold running off track here, and I think that's going to cause him to drop a few positions. In fact, Martin Groenewold dropping all the way down. And that's the Black Allison's fourth cars now in the mid-pack, trying to make their way through. I'm going to try and figure out what's going on with the, I think it's Roxanne Bartel, unfortunately has fallen all the way down the field. Perhaps some sort of incident. She'll have some recovery drive work to do here. But meanwhile, Jeremy de Villiers is out in front, followed very closely by Peter Geldenhuys and Ryan Ludik. Look at the overlap here. Ryan Ludik has actually made it past Peter Geldenhuys up the inside. There's a little bit of a side-by-side door action. That's McCallum Matthews, red and white. Renault, you can also see running wide and just trying to make his way into a good position across the track. As Nick Hodgson, we see midfield get past Martin Groenewold here as they try and navigate the chicane. Looks like everyone has made it through just based on the track map here, but there's a massive overlap here coming down the main straight, and Brett Kirkhamp is on the inside. They're almost 3 wide there at one stage, but they sensibly file back into single file, as that would have ended in disaster. You can't go 3 wide into T1. Look at the up the inside there. McCall Matthews gets on Peter Geldenhuys in the blue and white, but it looks like Peter's managed to take it back, just ramping the curbs, and manages to keep it inside track limits. That's Nick Hodgson trying to come around the outside now, and very, very closely followed by Martin Groenewold and Brett Kirkhamp. And it looks like Brett's gotten around Martin Groenewold for now. They're still technically side by side. Look at how fast they look there through Goodwood. Martin Groenewold's managed to take that place back from Brett Kirkhamp for now, but look at, he's running wide, and that's going to bleed off speed and allow Brett Kirkhamp to sail through. So, swapping positions about 3 or 4 times in the space of 2 corners. And for now, Jeremy de Villiers scampering away. Look at this though, on the back. We're going to see if we can go on board with Martin Groenewold looking after Brett Kirkhamp. This is the battle for P6. Brett just trying to squeeze as much as legally possible, but Martin has the inside line here, and I think he's going to have a better line going through the chicane, but there's a lot of traffic up ahead, and cars will need to remain quite tidy to avoid going all the way off track and losing a lot of speed if he dip wheels into the grass here. And, look at that overlap just behind on Brett Kirkhamp. Good amount of curb ramping here. Wheel even if you're going fast enough. Sethspin of SS meanwhile further down, getting past Greg Hopart. There you can see it in the foreground, Greg Hopart in the orange car side by side, and he runs quite wide outside of track limits there. Let's see if we can quickly have a look at this battle. And and it's, I think, allowed Sas van der Westhuizen to just simply sail on through. And right behind that's Roxanne Bartel, Greg Hofart, coming off second best there. You're losing a lot of speed. Cheeto Sport orange and silver liveries. Board here with Roxanne Bartel, looking onto her brother Ross Bartel ahead of her. And let's see if she can place the pressure on the sibling through Brooklands. Tire smoke ahead as all the drivers trying to navigate this final chicane safely, obviously not wanting to hit those tires. It is a brick wall. You will come off second best if you hit that. Certainly a lot of damage, possibly collecting another car, and very much a race ending. No one's managed to hit that tire barrier so far. Good job. This top split. That's van der Westhuizen. Meanwhile, under pressure from Ross Bartel behind. See if we can go on board now. Look at that right hand side driver mirror with the Ross Bartel looming in the mirrors. He'll be on single file now, possibly cutting to the inside left. And he's got some traffic ahead to navigate as Martin Quinneval tries to find a way side by side with Peter Geldenes up front. It does look like Martin Quinneval is able to make that pass on Peter Geldenes. But it's not over yet. They're still side by side. Have the inside line into Church Corner though, yeah, so I'm expecting him to be able to hold on to it. Oh, Peter goes farming. Farming and a nice rejoin without losing too much speed, but he does have up the inside here Sas van der Westhuizen and Ross Bartel, so he can't exactly swing across the track, so he has to sort of continue to bleed a little bit of speed by dipping that wheel into the grass. And pulls back, essentially filing into P9. Meanwhile, it's a drag race up the start. Ross Bartel and Martin Quinneval. Ross Bartel getting the upper hand there into the inside of T1. And manages to scamper away with P6 here. And Sas van der Westhuizen and Martin Quinneval swapping meanwhile behind. Meanwhile, Jeremy de Villiers out in front. No one looking to challenge so far. He's looking nice and tidy. Really good comeback race in race 2 here compared to race 1. Just capitalizing and making the most of that P10 in race 1 to be reversed and get pole position. Keeping the track nicely there, which is legal. Keeping it inside without running wide too much from the understeer. And he'll literally be looking to post quali laps in essentially now, lap after lap, to try and keep his advantage 2 cars behind. Meanwhile, battle for P2. This is Ryan Ludick on board, and he has Nick Hodson behind for company in the Black Owl Sim Sports Racing Clio. This is on board with Ryan Ludick. We're looking in the mirrors. There's the headlights. Nick Hodson behind, as he puts in his best lap of the race, a 124.741, a very respectable time, nearly the 125 sort of benchmark, and keeping it nice and tidy and tight here as he feathers the throttle well, closing up a little bit on Jeremy de Villiers actually. We'll look at what Jeremy de Villiers' last lap time was, a 125.459, which is also coincidentally his best, but it was significantly slower to Ryan Ludick's 124.741. So if Ryan can keep these consistent lap times up, and assuming Jeremy doesn't improve even further, this gap will continue to come down, and we will see a battle for the lead developing. Meanwhile, Nick Hudson and Mikhail Matthews looming in the background as well, just trying to fight for these final podium positions. Just over 11 minutes to go in this second race. Meanwhile, Roxanne Bartel getting ahead of Greg Hofart, and just in front of the blue and white of Peter Kaldenes they've got to deal with as well. It does look like actually Greg Hopart has gotten past Thruxton again there. Back up to Nick Hudson here is reporting side by side with Ryan Ludick. Got a little bit of an inside line here, and Ryan Ludick's going to run out of room and go all sorts of sideways, and he does manage to collect it and keep it going in the right direction, but that has allowed Nick Hudson, as you can see, a considerable gap now. And I think placed him into, in fact he's dropped down. Mikhail Matthews has managed to sail past as well into P3, grabbing that final podium position for now. Certainly 10 minutes to go here. There's a lot more of this race to come. We're expecting still some more quicker drivers from behind, still making their way up the field. Brett Kirkham, for example, in P5 is coming up on the back of Ryan Ludick now, just following that mistake. If we go on board, we should be able to see this battle developing through Brooklands. And there's certainly a faster car here who's going to try and pull to the outside of Woodham Hill, which will make it inside for Club Chicane. The perfect car position to be in, and a little bit squiggly there, but he does manage just to bank that position. And across the line, there you go, Brett Kirkham, Ryan Ludick and Ross Bartle. And Ludick now will be sandwiching the Black Alstom Sports meat in that sandwich, so to speak. Doing very well to hang on to it, but he's getting absolutely mobbed, I think, and Ross Bartle pressure from behind. This is so difficult, this position Ryan Ludick has found himself in. Got to be attacking onto Brett Kirkham, but yet defending to Ross Bartle behind. It is incredibly difficult to keep your nerves in check as well. Saw a little bit of a consistency mistakes happening from Ryan early in these races. So far for now, holding his nerve. He's holding onto that position very admirably. There's a little bit of pushing going on, and it's essentially now a 3-car wide drag. But it does look like Ross Bartle is going to be getting the best of that, and Ryan Ludick's trying to find his way in between the two, but that door was slammed shut just before the final chicane. And there was certainly some very hard racing. All three cars managing to keep it pointed in the right direction. Into Campbell Corner now, you see how squiggly Ryan Ludick wants to get there, just having to quickly correct for some snap oversteer perhaps. In the foreground there, you're seeing Sas van der Vestes, and he's about 2 seconds behind Ryan Ludick, and we'll see if he can close that gap. So, meanwhile, yeah, still up in front, Jeremy de Villiers. Looks like Nick is hunting him down though. He is 1.1 seconds behind. Nick's still putting in 124.7, 124.5s. Average last few laps. Power predicted is on for a good one, 124.7 as well. Just ever consistent Nick is. Remember what I said in race 1, where consistency wins races. Nick has that in spades. And Jeremy de Villiers also nice and consistent here, but I do fear that his lap time is slightly slower than Nick's on average. And with 7 minutes left in this race, I think Nick is going to be all over him in a matter of laps. Quickly hopping back down to Greg Hopart below, who's navigating that final corner. Just after the chicane, you saw the blue wall there, and you think this is attacking Peter Kaldenes. It's a drag race up the finish, and he slingshots his way past quite admirably, in fact. The Roxanne Bartle in tow, this freeway battle here for P8 We'll just keep our eyes on it as we also keep an eye on the tower on the top left for next time of a half a second down to Jeremy de Villiers. Through into Cobb Corner, Seagrave. Doing very well, all three of these drivers, to keep it nice and tidy. Noble Corner, I see Peter Keldernes in the blue and white just copying a wheel there over the curbs. Nice aggressive use, but it does seem to have allowed Greg to catch up ever so slightly. And a big puff of smoke from Roxanne Bartle in the background there. Meanwhile, Ross Bartle, this is the position battle for P4. Has closed up quite a bit on the back of Brad Kirkhamp, and in the background there, that's Ryan Ludick just getting it a bit wrong and doing some farming, and it looks like he might have needed to slow down a little bit just to avoid any sort of track penalties. We see a move here, Peter Keldernes and Greg Hofart. Peter's gotten it a little bit wrong. It looks like he was running slowly through the chicane there, and that's allowed Roxanne Bartle to go through. That gap up ahead, Nick Hodgson is 0.2 seconds behind Jeremy de Villiers. So here he is. He's essentially caught Jeremy. We're going to go on board and see what he can do. As Jeremy slams that door shut in Noble Corner. And unfortunately, I've just seen Roxanne Bartle disconnect from the server. But there's a retirement in race 2 for her, unfortunately. And the DNF gets clocked. Peter Keldernes is reporting off track. Just see what Peter's doing. Looks like hopefully not as a result, as Nick meanwhile sails past Jeremy and up the inside of Brooklands. Looks like that pass was done without too much drama. 4 minutes left in this race, and that's Jeremy de Villiers now in P2. Trying to see if he can catch up to Nick Hudson again and affect another battle. Ross Bartle, meanwhile, I've just seen get past Brett Kirkhamp, and that is for P4. And a little bit further down the track, we see Sas van der Westhuizen trying to catch up to the back of Ryan Ludick. Have a quick look at the comparative lap times here and see if there's a realistic chance of Sas van der Westhuizen catching it, as we see Brett Kirkhamp further up the field get past Ross Bartle. The Sas van der Westhuizen's last lap was 1:26.477, and Ryan Ludick's was 1:26.142. So Ryan Ludick with the upper hand, certainly in the last lap time. Best lap time, of course, by Sas is 1:25.09, and Ryan Ludick's 1:24.741. So by all means, Ryan is quicker than Sas van der Westhuizen. So unless some sort of mistake happens, perhaps due to some inconsistencies, mistakes creeping in by Ryan Ludick here, or the pressure just getting to him, I think he should be able to hang on to this P6 here ahead of Sas van der Westhuizen. Meanwhile, the battle for the final podium position, P3, looks like Mikhail Matthews has it safely for now. Brett Kirkhamp is 3.5 seconds down the field. So Jeremy de Villiers may actually find himself in trouble here for P2, as the gap has come down considerably between P2 and P3. And I'm going to quickly hop back to Sas van der Westhuizen, as he's got a slight overlap here with Ryan Ludick in the background of your pictures there. Just had to slot back down behind Ryan Ludick, Sas van der Westhuizen. But yeah, as we were looking at the final podium positions, Mikhail Matthews in P3, his last lap was 1:25.2, and Jeremy de Villiers 1:26.1, with the best lap time of 1:25.281. You can see Mikhail Matthews there, 1:24 his best. I think there's still some considerable pressure here onto Jeremy de Villiers just to hang on to that coveted second position. We're going to quickly have a look at Ross Bartley here, side by side with Brett Kirkhamp. I think he's going to get through even before the chicane. And, that'll be blocking Brett out, forcing him into single file through that chicane there, so that pass should be nice and safe. Brett moves down a position to P5, making way for Ross Bartley. But we're certainly going to keep our eyes peeled here for the top three with a minute left in this race. And see if Mikhail Matthews can get any closer to Jeremy de Villiers. Ryan Ludwig and Sas van der Westhuizen side by side. Ryan Ludwig sort of taking the inside line through Cobb here. And doing a great job of keeping it in front of Sas van der Westhuizen and Seagrave. They go. I think that is a back marker. That's not a back marker. What has happened to Ross Bartle here? He slipped all the way back down, letting Ryan Ludwig and Sas van der Westhuizen through. That was strange. Quite sure what's going on with Ross Bartle there. We may have to hear post-race. But Mikhail Matthews, meanwhile, looks ever so close here to the back of Jeremy de Villiers, side by side. A little bit of side door-to-door rubbing, and Mikhail Matthews gets into the position by taking the inside line before the chicane. And a great move there to secure P2. And that is in fact the cockpit zero before these cars cross the line. Nick Thruxton manages to take P2. Mikhail Matthews, P1 on apologies. Mikhail Matthews takes P2 just ahead of Jeremy de Villiers at the death there. And we did see Kirkhamp in the lights there coming home in P4, despite what the tile's currently saying. And Ryan Ludwig P5, Sas van der Westhuizen finishes a very respectable P6. Quite sure what happened to Ross Bartle at the end there. Hopefully he wasn't running out of fuel or something. Maybe he just had to do some fuel saving, but it certainly looked like he just relinquished 2 positions at the death. Greg Hofbach coming on in P8, I think it is. Peter Kelden is P9. Not incredible to P10. Roxanne, unfortunately, I think was the DNF 3 laps ago. That essentially is the race. And big thank you very much to everyone in the YouTube chat for watching live tonight. Big shout out and hello to everyone who's going to watch the replays, either later tonight or tomorrow or whenever. Very nice to have you with us supporting. Big thank you to our monthly supporters as well, those drivers and community members providing fuel for our simracing.gp memberships. Whose names have been scrolling in the top right hand of your screen. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much to everyone. I will check you in the next race, GT3. We're going to be at Donington. Back to typical British weather, light rain, but persistent. And that's happening next Monday. Catch you then. Ciao for now, everyone. Thank you.